236 hours. That's how long the average American spent each year just commuting to an office. Nearly 10 full days. Gone. For a century, this was simply the price of white-collar work. Then, in a matter of months, the largest workplace experiment in history proved most of it unnecessary. Now, remote work isn't just challenging the office, it's replacing it. Within a single generation, everything changed. Maya's alarm breaks the silence before dawn. She's 34, lives in Queens, and manages accounts at a busy ad agency downtown. By 6:30 in the morning, she's already out the door, clutching a paper cup of espresso from the corner shop. The city is barely awake, but the subway platform is packed, faces drawn, headphones in, eyes fixed on glowing screens. Maya's ride on the F train takes 28 minutes if everything runs on time, but delays are routine. She stands shoulder to shoulder with strangers, swaying as the train rattles beneath the city, counting stops and checking the clock. There's no time to linger. She arrives at the office before most of her team, logs into Slack, and lines up for the first meeting of the day. The hours blur, client calls, brainstorms in glass-walled rooms, lunch grabbed on the go, another round of emails, another conference call. By 6, she's back on the train, exhausted, her mind still racing with half-finished tasks and tomorrow's deadlines. On paper, Maya's commute is average, 31.5 minutes each way, according to the latest census data. But the real cost is harder to measure. Hours lost to waiting, fatigue that lingers long after she gets home. Multiply Maya's routine by millions, and it's clear this isn't just a personal inconvenience. It's a daily reality that shapes lives, limits choices, and steals time that can never be reclaimed. A Manhattan office lease costs $77.49 per square foot. Every year, that single number drains millions from company budgets. The space itself is only the start. Employers pick up the tab for parking spots, subway cards, and sometimes even bike share memberships, all to make sure workers can show up on time and stay late if needed. At Maya's agency, the office fridge is always stocked, and the coffee machine never rests. There is a budget for Friday bagels, holiday parties, and the occasional after-hours happy hour. Because presence is not just about being at your desk, it is about being seen, included, and part of the group. These rituals shape more than schedules. They are woven into the day. A quick chat at the water cooler, a spontaneous brainstorm scribbled on the whiteboard, a round of applause when someone lands a big client. Maya relies on these moments. They are how she gets feedback, reads the mood, and finds her place in the team. The open plan floor, the glass-walled meeting rooms, even the line for the elevator, each one is a stage for connection and camaraderie. But all of this comes at a price. The expectation that work happens in person, in a specific place, at a specific time, is reinforced by every dollar spent on real estate and every tradition that fills the calendar. For decades, this was simply how business got done. The real question is, what happens when technology starts to challenge every one of these assumptions? Broadband lines crept into American homes at the turn of the millennium, quietly raising the speed limit for what could be done from a kitchen table or a spare bedroom. By 2006, Google Docs let people edit the same document from opposite coasts, and Office 365 followed in 2011, bringing the cloud into the heart of office work. Laptops dropped below $1,000, making the portable office more than just a perk for executives. But even as the tools improved, the idea of a fully remote team still sounded risky to most managers, if not outright reckless. A handful of founders saw it differently. Automatic, the company behind WordPress, went distributed first in 2009, hiring talent from over 70 countries and using their own internal blog to keep everyone in sync. GitLab declared itself all remote in 2015, running everything from code reviews to onboarding through a sprawling public handbook. Basecamp, Zapier, and others built their own playbooks, handbooks, equipment stipends, rules for asynchronous work, and even no meeting days, all designed to make distance feel normal, not like a compromise. These early adopters proved that a company could exist without the headquarters, but their experiments came with doubts. IBM, the original telework giant, tried to push 1/5 of its workforce hybrid in 2017, only to pull back 6 months later, citing cultural drift and uneven productivity. Memos from that period questioned whether teams could really trust each other, or if remote work would unravel the fabric that held big organizations together. By the mid-2010s, the technology was ready, the handbooks were written. The skepticism, though, was far from gone. What would it take to move remote work from the fringe to the mainstream? The answer was about to arrive, faster than anyone expected. March 2020. The world stopped commuting overnight. Office towers stood empty, lights blinking behind locked doors. In a matter of weeks, the idea of remote work flipped from fringe experiment to corporate mandate. Zoom's servers strained under the load. Meeting minutes soared from 10 billion to 30 billion in less than a year. Microsoft Teams, barely a supporting player before, shot up to 236 million monthly active users, triple its pre-pandemic reach. Companies scrambled to keep up. Virtual private network capacity, once an afterthought, ballooned by 300% as IT teams raced to secure home connections for millions. The shock wasn't just technical. On May 19th, 2020, Twitter told its entire workforce they could work from anywhere, forever. Shopify declared itself digital by default and shut down its headquarters. These weren't startups, they were global brands, sending a signal that the old rules no longer applied. Internal Slack threads buzzed with debate. Some leaders worried about security and lost culture. Others pointed to steady productivity and called for a permanent shift. Gallup's 2021 survey captured the scale. 45% of US employees were working remotely full-time, up from just 4% before the pandemic. The numbers told their own story. What began as a crisis workaround became the new default. The office, once the center of working life, now looked optional, maybe even obsolete. For millions, the world of work had changed, and there was no going back. Kenji stands in the lobby of a midtown skyscraper, clipboard in hand, staring at rows of darkened offices. The vacancy rate in Manhattan has hit 22%. Almost 1 in every 5 floors sits empty. For landlords, that means millions in lost rent and a scramble to find new tenants or rethink entire buildings. Kenji's firm is now weighing a full conversion, tearing out cubicles, bringing in architects, and pitching the city on a plan to turn office towers into apartments. SL Green, one of the city's largest landlords, has already started, betting that 250 new residential units will bring a better return than empty desks. The shockwaves ripple out. Subway fare revenue has dropped by nearly a third since 2019, forcing the MTA to slash $2.1 billion from its budget. Trains run less often, and the city's transit future hangs in the balance. Meanwhile, more than 300,000 people have left New York for smaller, cheaper cities, taking their paychecks, tax dollars, and daily routines with them. This exodus reshapes neighborhoods and local economies. For workers, the shift isn't always a relief. Monitoring software tracks every keystroke, and studies show a 27% spike in stress among remote employees. The promise of flexibility comes with new trade-offs: isolation, anxiety, and the sense that work never really ends. The old office is fading, but what fills the vacuum is still uncertain. The next wave of remote work may not look anything like today's video calls or cloud drives. In some offices, meetings now happen in virtual reality. Avatars gather around a digital table, passing files and scribbling on 3D whiteboards. Early pilots like Meta's Horizon workrooms hint at a future where meetings run 15% shorter, not because people rush, but because presence feels real enough to skip the small talk. Meanwhile, AI agents are quietly taking over the calendar. Tools like Clockwise and Fellow do not just suggest meeting times. They shuffle schedules, prioritize tasks, and even summarize what happened, freeing up hours that used to vanish in endless coordination. Identity itself is changing too. With projects like Kilt, credentials move onto the blockchain, letting workers prove who they are without relying on a single HR department or centralized database. The next chapter could play out in several ways. One possibility is that companies ditch headquarters for persistent virtual reality campuses, where the office is code and the commute is a login screen. Another possibility is that small regional hubs pop up, offering a hybrid between home and a shared space just minutes away. Or I could run the show. Assigning tasks, tracking wellness and managing workflows with barely a human manager in sight. Each scenario promises efficiency, flexibility, and reach, but none comes with guarantees. The only constant is that every new tool, every leap in how we connect, sets the stage for the next replacement. Every day, another empty office tower becomes a question for cities and a new beginning for workers. The tools keep evolving, and so do we. What replaces the office will keep changing, just as the office once replaced what came before. No technology stays on top forever. Watch what's next.